So, let's talk about February 8th, 2026. The world was tuned in for Super Bowl LX, right? But honestly, it was those 12 minutes at halftime that completely broke the internet. You had the one and only Bad Bunny headlining, and man, it turned into one of the most talked about, most controversial performances we've seen in a long, long time. So what really went down, and why was it such a big deal? Let's get into it. Okay, first off, you have to get your head around the sheer scale of this thing. The Super Bowl halftime show, it's not just some concert, right? It's a global cultural event. It's really one of the last times where pretty much everyone, hundreds of millions of us, are all watching the exact same thing at the exact same time. And when I say hundreds of millions, we're talking over 100 million people watching live. That is insane. It's more than the population of most countries on Earth. So you can imagine, for an artist, that stage, it's the biggest opportunity you could ever get, but it's also a serious pressure cooker. It really is the performance of a lifetime. So that brings up a really interesting question, especially now, right? What happens when you take an artist who performs proudly in a language that isn't English, with a super specific cultural vibe, and you put them on this gigantic, traditionally very American stage? Well, in 2026, we found out in a big, big way. And the man at the center of it all? Benito Antonio Martinez Ocasio. You know him, of course, as Bad Bunny. He was the one tapped to headline, which was huge because it made him the very first reggaeton artist to ever be the main act for the show. And let's be super clear here. This was not some up-and-coming artist getting their big break. Oh no, Bad Bunny was already one of the biggest artists on the entire planet, topping charts all over the world and doing it all in Spanish. And that's the key thing to remember. He was bringing his world to the Super Bowl, not changing himself to fit in. And wow, what a performance it was. Those 12 minutes were just a full-on spectacle. So much energy, so many cultural references, and honestly, a few moments that nobody saw coming. All right, let's jump into the highlights. Okay, so he comes out strong, opens with his huge hit Titi Me Preguntó. He's in this amazing all-white suit, and get this, on the back, it's his family name, Ocasio. Such a personal touch. The whole stage looked like a miniature neighborhood in Puerto Rico. And the guest list was just stacked. You had Lady Gaga, Ricky Martin, Cardi B, Jessica Alba, and even Pedro Pascal show up. But then came the moment that really made everyone's jaws drop. Right in the middle of his song Monaco, a real couple gets legally married. Like for real, on the field. Was it some kind of performance art? A statement about love? Who knows? But it was totally out of left field and the internet just exploded. It was all anyone could talk about. You know what really sticks with me, though, is how he ended the whole thing. After this performance that was just 100% Puerto Rican, almost all in Spanish, he closes with a super simple but really powerful message. He just says, "Together we are America." And that was a direct statement, It was him basically redefining what America can look like and what it can sound like right now. So the impact was instant, and I mean instant. But nowhere, and I mean nowhere, was it felt more than in Puerto Rico. For them, this was so much more than just a concert. It was a huge, huge moment of representation. Yeah, people started calling it Super Bowl Sunday. You have to picture it all across the island. The streets were empty because everyone was inside, gathered around screens for watch parties. It was just this incredible feeling of pride, watching one of your own on the world's biggest stage, doing it completely his way. And you saw this reflected everywhere. Like the Olympic gold medalist from Puerto Rico, Monica Puig, she really summed it up perfectly. She called it a powerful display of the island's pride and its influence on the world. And that feeling, that was echoed by millions of people. But here's the thing about a cultural moment this huge. It's never that simple. For all the praise that came pouring in, the controversy and the political pushback came just as fast. The performance basically became an instant flashpoint in the culture wars. And the reactions pretty much split right down the middle, into two camps. On one side, you had people just praising the show like crazy for being authentic and inclusive. But on the other side, you had a really significant political backlash from people who felt like, hey, this performance is alienating. It doesn't represent me.
The loudest criticism, probably not surprisingly, came from former President Donald Trump. He called it one of the worst ever and even a slap in the face to America. And he was really specific, pointing to the Spanish lyrics and the whole style of the performance.
And that feeling was definitely echoed across conservative media. You even had the group Turning Point USA stage their own kind of alternative halftime show with Kid Rock. Online, the debate just went on and on. A lot of the critics kept coming back to the same point. A show mostly in a language they don't speak just felt exclusionary to them.
Okay, so now that the dust has settled a bit, what are we left with? Why did 12 minutes of music cause such an uproar? What's the actual legacy here? When you boil it all down, this show is about so much more than just the music. Bad Bunny didn't just get up there and entertain people. He actually forced a national conversation. Just by being himself completely and unapologetically on the biggest stage you can imagine, he basically challenged what the Super Bowl halftime show even is, and more importantly, who it's supposed to be for.
So I guess that leaves us with one last question to chew on. Was this just a 12-minute concert? Or was it something bigger, a real cultural turning point? Was this the moment that signaled a totally new chapter for global music in the American mainstream? Honestly, how you answer that probably says a lot about where you think culture is headed.